going inside the issues of our community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. The location of public housing has always been controversial. In the last week, that controversy has erupted again. Before we plunge into the details, the historian in me compels me to remind everyone that Cincinnati played a special role in the creation of government-subsidized housing in this country. In the early 20th century, led by Jacob Schmidlapp and his Cincinnati Model Homes Initiative, the city became a leader in the privately funded low-income housing movement. Although Cincinnati Senator Robert Taft was the leader of the opposition of FDR's New Deal in the 1930s, grounded in the Cincinnati experience on the issue of public housing, he broke with his party's ideological colleagues and stood with Roosevelt. That stance brought accusations of socialism, but landed Taft in John Kennedy's profile and courage for his position on the question of public housing. The current incident was sparked by a complaint filed by local attorney Bob Newman with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. The complaint alleges that Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority, CMHA, and specifically the board and its chairman, Arnold Barnett in particular, is undertaking practices to restrict housing opportunities of African Americans in violation of the Fair Housing Act. It is also imposing administrative barriers that have effect of preventing 500 available Section 8 vouchers from being awarded, and pursues policies that Newman characterizes as setting off a wave of racially hostile vigilantism with the way it enforces its rules. Robert Newman has long fought the policies and practices of CMHA. The fact that he filed a complaint may not have drawn much attention without the response of Arnold Barnett. Barnett, who lives in Green Township, was quoted as saying that he instructed the agency's staff to aggressively look for 35 to 50 rental units in Newman's neighborhood, Hyde Park, that could be made eligible for Section 8 vouchers. I am joined this morning by Arnold Barnett, the chairperson of CMHA Board of Commissioners. Mr. Barnett is the CEO of Creative Dimensions, an advertising and marketing agency headquartered in Northern Kentucky. Arnold, welcome to Newsmakers.
Dan, good morning.
Let's start off by the basic question. Did you in fact instruct the staff of CMHA to identify 35 to 50 rental units in Hyde Park that could be made into Section 8 vouchers?
What I did, I recommended when Mr. Newman filed his suit, as any good lawyer or person in my position would do, we looked to see where Mr. Newman lived. I had no idea who Mr. Newman was until I started checking around the courthouse and other places.
You've been on the CMHA board for a while, right?
2
years. You don't know who Bob Newman is?
Never knew who Newman was.
Oh my gosh.
No. Remember, we used to go to a place called Newman's Steakhouse in Saratoga when I was a kid, but not the same one. And Newman, I quickly became acquainted with him, or with who he was. And what I did was, I said, well, you know, the East Side has always been in contention with the number of houses that we've had there. In fact, it's just been recently that we've started to purchase some houses over in that area. So I said, let's take a look and see the disparity, if any, between where Mr. Newman lives, where he lives, and whether he's sincere or whether or not he does have is just looking for publicity, or, as you know, he's married to the executive director of legal aid, and they're always in somebody's shorts. So let's see what's going on here. Turns out that Hyde Park has a very, 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 very limited number of low-income housing. And when I say low-income housing, I mean Section 8 and public housing. And I said, you know, this is ridiculous. Let's see if we can find 35 to 50 homes there to bring it up to speed with the rest of the areas like Montgomery, and which has some, and Green Township and other places, because we just bought some Mount Lookout. One of the things I did say, and was misquoted by the Cincinnati Enquirer. Of course, we know the Cincinnati Enquirer never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
No.
I know.
This is Channel 12. I'm giving you a chance to. Okay.
I know.
Okay, so you're saying what were you misquoted about?
I said to them, told them exactly what I had said, and that I said that let's take a look at Mr. Newman and see what's in his neighborhood. Well, when I found out that Mr. Newman lives in a $600,000 plus house and that there's nobody on his street, but yet he's in favor of this, I said, well, we're always catching hell with the people where we buy. Mount Lookout is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
At least we won't be catching any flack if we buy on Mr. Newman's street. Well, when I found out where he lived, obviously we can't afford to buy on that street. But I did say, let's see if we can get a couple of units on his street as well.
So you did say that?
Yes, but I did not say, let's see how he likes it.
Okay.
Because that to me is racist, and I'm not a racist.
And given the reaction, do you see why people in Hyde Park might be upset by this? Do you see why people who are residents of CMHA housing might be upset by that kind of comment?
The comment which they said I said, or
no,
the reason?
The comment that you somebody files a complaint and you're going to look for 35 to 50 houses in that neighborhood.
No, I don't, because let's take it back 2 years ago, when there were landlords from the west side of town, and you go back and check our minutes. And I said there are plenty of homes on the west side. West side has certainly stepped up and done its share. Mm-hmm. I think it's now time that we buy in areas like Hyde Park, and the landlords went nuts because they were all west side landlords. And I turned, you go back and check the records, I can back this up with the minutes. And I said, I don't see any problem with buying homes or public housing in Hyde Park in those areas, and I turned to our tenants. There's normally 30 to 50 tenants there at a meeting. Mm-hmm. And I said at that point, who here would not like to live in Hyde Park? And every tenant raised their hand. One tenant shouted out, I'd love to live in Hyde Park. So this is not something that came up because of this.
But
I can't see.
But don't you see that this is, saying it the way you said it, saying it in the context that you said it, sounds like you're just using the threat of low-income housing as a tool, a piece in sort of a political fight here?
No, I don't, and I'll tell you why. Because we had already decided to buy in areas in non-low-income mm-hmm. housing areas. Hyde Park was one of them. I just said, let's take a look. Now, maybe it focused on that because of what he said, but I don't see any problem with that. Let me explain something to you. He calls myself and the board racist. Let me give you some statistics. 57% of our staff is African American. 90% of the people on public housing, that's 10,000 now, or a little 10,000, so many, whatever, 11,000 vouchers or whatever, and 10,000 on the waiting list, okay? Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many out there looking right now. 57% of our staff is African American. 90% of our tenants in public housing are African American. 87% of our tenants with Section 8 vouchers are African American. Well, if we got 90%, 87%, and 57%, where's the racism? Well, here's what his racism comments were. We have a program called Work Preference, which I might add is allowed by the federal government. Not us, federal government.
And let's be clear, CMHA operates under federal regs.
That's
this
correct.
Is not a city agency. This is not a county agency.
Absolutely, we're federal.
This operates under HUD regulations.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so this is allowed by HUD. Mm-hmm. Now, if it was racist, they wouldn't allow it. What we do is we say if you have worked 30 hours a week, and I would disagree with that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. If you've worked 30 hours a week, and if for a year, and you show us pay stubs, and you're looking for a house or an apartment or whatever, and you have a voucher or you want a voucher, we will take your voucher and put you at the upper part of the list, mm-hmm. above people who are not working, who won't work, who live by the system. I personally don't see anything wrong with that. What we're doing is doing what every African American, Hispanic, Caucasian taxpayer in this country wants, is give people a chance. I don't have a problem with that, but not to live on the system and do nothing. So we're encouraging people to do this. Let me just say this to you, if I will. I disagree, and this is only in the last week or so when it came to my attention. I didn't realize it was 30 hours. I think today, and everybody, and probably including the station, they're hiring people today at 38 hours, 30 hours to avoid the pension plan, to avoid the benefits that they pay. So I say, okay, now the 30-hour limit is too stringent, because now you're getting down into what used to be part-time is now full-time. I'd say we drop it, and I'm going to bring this up to the board. Let's drop the 30 hours to 20 hours. If you can't work 20 hours a week, and that, by the way, does not include the disabled, the infirmed, or the elderly or the children.
What happens if a person who's living in a CMHA unit, whether voucher or otherwise, and has been working and loses their job? Are they in?
No, once you're in, you're in.
Okay, you're not in threat
No.
of. It's a question of who's eligible in that waiting list,
Exactly.
and how you stack the waiting list.
Yeah.
On this question of staff, though, before we move on, 57%, but one of the arguments has been of some people that the leadership of the agency has been consistently white. There was a change in top administrator over the past year, and if so many of the residents are African American, why a Caucasian consistently at that top position?
That's fine. I'll tell you what I don't believe in, and I don't care who knows this. I don't believe you choose a person by the color of his skin. I think you choose the person by their ability. Maybe the people that have applied who are of other than Caucasian maybe the Caucasian person is more qualified. Maybe we have not had enough African American or apply. I don't think you should do that. I think this is America.
In this last transition, the current director, his last name is Rust.
That's correct.
Was already employed. He was legal counsel, I guess, for.
That's correct. 28 years, I believe.
Was there a national search done?
There was a national search done to start with. I'm not going to get into it. Let's just say that the search team was not one I would have chosen. Mr. Rust chose them. I'm not sure, and frankly, we didn't feel that the person who had conducted the search had led us to the right areas. I personally, when I became, 2 months before I became chairman, was elected chairman, I pushed, and I mean pushed, for another search. It was being waylaid to some degree by circumstances, and I finally said, let's get the search done. I want to see it done by next meeting. The board voted on who to choose for the search. At my insistence and at the board's insistence, the search was immediately begun. The search is now underway. I, as a matter of fact, called our search team that we hired yesterday and said, it's September 1, I want to see some action, or is there going to be problems?
Okay, so Mr. Rust is not in the permanent position
No,
yet.
he's not.
Okay, I am very aware of time, so I want to move on to one other thing. Part of the complaint filed by Bob Newman is about the practices of CMHA in terms of, and what he seems to be alluding to is some of the practices of inspecting units by CMHA employees. Do CMHA employees enter tenants' property without notice?
No. And this is just not, there were several lies in his complaint, and I'm not. It'll take us too long to go into them. But when I said everything I said concerning Mr. Newman, said in my opinion, because they are my opinions, except when I said he's a bold-faced liar, and the only reason I said that was because I have the proof of things that were in that complaint that are totally fabricated. Here's an example. Let me just make a few other comments if I can, because you say we're short on time. The people we just had evicted, they say we pick on one race or another. They were just because the a man was telling us that he didn't live at this house. We evicted them both. I don't see anything wrong, by the way, with at least trying to enforce, which we have no power over, but can talk to the landlord, loud music, people using obscene language in front of other children. I don't see any problem with that. When you move into a neighborhood, regardless, you should live by the standards of the neighborhood and become a neighbor. That's one of the purposes of this program. And
I've got only about 30 seconds left here. So you're saying, do tenants get, under Ohio law, do tenants get from CMHA 24-hour notice that their place is going to be entered?
I don't know the amount of time.
Because that's the complaint in a lot of these.
I don't know the amount of time, but I will tell you this. I would believe they get at least 24 hours notice.
Okay. Arnie, thank you for being here this morning, and stay right there, and we'll see what happens with this. Stay tuned. After the break, an interview with the new president of Vision 2015 in Northern Kentucky. Welcome back. In 1995, Northern Kentuckians undertook a systematic visioning process tied to very specific and measurable goals. The first plan, released in 1996, was called Forward Quest, followed in 2005 by a 10-year strategic plan called Vision 2015. Through the years, Mike Hammonds led those efforts as president of the organization. He moved on at the beginning of this year, and on Thursday night last week, Vision 2015 named Bill Scheyer its new president. I am joined this morning by Mr. Scheyer, who has extensive experience as a healthcare administrator, as a city manager of Erlanger for 18 years, and most recently as the president of South Bank Partners. Bill, welcome to Newsmakers.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. It's great to be here.
The very first Newsmaker show I ever did was about Forward Quest and getting that whole initiative, and it's been so successful over the years. It is very interesting to take the reins of an organization that that's proved to be so important to Northern Kentucky.
True. It's an honor for me, and it's going to be a pleasure and a lot of fun. I've been involved with community visioning in Northern Kentucky really since the Quest Vision days. I continue to stay an active participant throughout. I'm currently on a couple of the initiative teams anyway, and plus good friend of Mike, and have worked closely with him through the years. So when this opportunity presented itself, it just really felt like a natural fit for me. So I'm very excited to be coming into this role.
When you were introduced at the Ascent, you spoke first, after saying how pleased you were and whatever, right. But you spoke first. Your first reference was to the educational objectives and initiatives under Vision 2015, which got a real response from the crowd. Right. Why did you pick that out first?
Well, when I was really thinking through how I would approach this position, prior to talking with the selection team, I took a look at all the initiatives and tried to, in my mind, sort out really sort of what order they fit in terms of what led to another. And the Educational Excellence Initiative is absolutely, in my opinion, the foundation of everything else. It really supports economic competitiveness, without a doubt. It supports urban renaissance, regional stewardship, quality of life initiatives, supports all that stuff. And so really education is the foundation of everything. If we do well in education, then we will do well in all the other areas.
In your mind, what are the concrete things that Northern Kentucky is working right now and has to continue to work on to move that goal forward?
First of all, raising public awareness about where we stand with education. And there was a great event a couple of years ago called the Education Summit, which really brought hundreds of people together at one time to focus on education in Northern Kentucky and really look for the kinds of things, the pressure points that could improve and raise the level. Also, we're very actively involved in Strive, which is a tremendous program. Working with the superintendents of all the schools, the school systems, to try to find collaboration points, which is a key factor, and also look for some standardization so that as we're bringing teachers into the field, they are coming in with a common set of standards that they're going to be using to move their classrooms forward. So those are some of the things we've been doing so far.
One of the big one of the big objectives that's out there in Vision 2015 is around economic competitiveness, economic opportunity, right. And one of the concrete goals when this was adopted in 2005 was 50,000 new good jobs in northern Kentucky. Right. Ambitious goal in 2005, looks very different in 2009. What happens when you got a vision and you got a goal and things have been moving along so well, but now you've hit, like the rest of the country, this economic downturn, right. Plus the change in the way the international airport plays into northern Kentucky's economic development. What do you do with that goal?
Right. Well, I actually, and I often use football analogies, not that I was ever a football player particularly, but just because I enjoy the Bengals, I guess, as much as anything else.
We can still say that early in the year like this? Yes, okay.
But my wife and I still enjoy them at the end of the season.
Okay, so good.
We are loyal fans. But at any rate, in my mind, it is like being in a big game. And all of a sudden you find that you've run into some problems. You've had injuries on the field. What do? You know, you don't give up and say, well, gosh, I guess there's no chance we can win this game. What you do is continue to push forward and try to be, first of all, get your players to execute the best they can on every play. Have a coach who has a good playbook and uses it well, so that you can try to adjust to the changing circumstances. And if you're running into problems here, you try to move to this area. Will we hit that goal on the head? Who knows? You know, I mean, it was a big goal to begin with. Mm-hmm. We might, but our goal is to keep moving toward that, or our plan is to keep moving toward that. And I think particularly the responsiveness to changing circumstances, trying to bring the best and the brightest people across the region together to continue to work together to look for the things that work. One of the things is continuing to take the opportunity to raise the reputation of our overall community in the eyes of the world, so that people say, well, that's a place I want to be, I want to do business.
One final area on this, and you'll be back many times, but one final area I wanted to raise was so much of Vision 2015 is about helping, encouraging collaboration in northern Kentucky, right. To move across lines that exist there. And you've done some amazing things in northern Kentucky to do that. There's also that big line called the river. Okay. Now on this side of the river, as of February of this year, the north side of the river now has Agenda 360, modeled after, advised by, collaborating with right. Vision 2015. They're really, it's the north side of the river's way to respond to what was happening in northern Kentucky. Is there going to be, where do you think we stand on collaboration between those two?
Well, I think, and in fact I know, collaboration is already taking place. I think the thing that everybody really always needs to keep in mind is that even though you've got that big river and you've got these rivalries in some cases between the two sides of the river, that we are one area. I mean, there is no two ways about it. People get up in the morning and they may live on one side of the river, drive to work and go to work on the other side of the river. That evening they'll go someplace for entertainment back on the other side of the river. In Kentucky we've got the Licking River, so I mean that's a divide as well.
Right.
And so we really stand and fall together. And also when you go anywhere else around the world, people don't name the individual little sub-communities we have here. They say Cincinnati. And so the health of the community on both sides of the river, I mean, it's not just that northern Kentucky is dependent upon Cincinnati. Cincinnati is also dependent upon northern Kentucky. Both of us probably forget about Indiana. And so really, this region needs to work together as collaboratively as possible. Now, does that mean that we just merge everything together into one big pot? I don't really think so, because there are other related problems with that. What I think we do is really aggressively keep looking for those points of opportunity, the intersection points, where we can get the biggest bang for our efforts when we collaborate around a particular initiative. As we do more and more of that, then the level for everybody rises.
Well, Bill, first off, I want to congratulate you on your new opportunity and promise you will be back here and we'll talk about these specifics. And good luck, because what Vision 2015 has already done for Northern Kentucky is just so important. And as growing up in Northern Kentucky. He's so proud of what's happening there.
Well, thank you very much, and
okay.
I'll definitely be looking forward to coming back.
Okay, maybe we can get you and Myrita Craig together.
Oh, that'll be great. I think it'll be a great conversation.
Of Agenda 360. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week to meet the men and the women working to shape the future of our region. Have a good week.